The social media world has been undergoing some major changes lately. First, Twitter decided to erect a kind of soft paywall for the platform by forcing people to log in just in order to view some tweets. And these forced logins allowed the platform to apply rate limits on a per-account basis, limiting you to view only a few hundred tweets per day before you would get cut off. Unless, of course, you buy Twitter Blue for $8 a month, then you can view almost enough tweets for a chronic Twitter addict to get their fix. Now, this change that made Twitter more like a methadone clinic, along with putting the Twitter API behind an actual paywall, was pretty effective at bringing down services like knitter.net that acted as an alternative front end for the Twitter platform. They can't afford to use the API in order to get data from Twitter like they were doing before, and they can't really go the content scraping route either because of the rate limits, and using proxies to change your IP to scrape more content is useless since the rate limit is applied to your account and not to your IP address or your user agent. But this change also banned all lurkers from the platform. If one of your friends that uses Twitter sends a link to something there, then you've got to create an account before you could view the tweet. And a lot of people really are not willing to do that. Like, if you're a Twitter addict that's just been lurking all of this time, then you probably went and created an account so that you could continue getting your fix. And this probably contributed to the short-term spike in new Twitter users, but a lot of people also just completely forgot about the bird altogether and moved on to greener pastures to view some content on the internet. Because it's not like there's any shortage of memes to look at or people complaining about their life. But where exactly are these greener pastures that people are moving to? I've been shilling Lemmy as an alternative to Reddit since the changes to Reddit's API and the protests coming from the various communities on that site have made it all but unusable. Unless, of course, you go there exclusively for porn and pictures of John Oliver. Then you'll be right at home using Reddit. But where can all of these disenfranchised Twitter users go? Well, recently, Mark Zuckerberg announced Meta Threads, which has a very deep integration with Instagram, but more on that later. If you visit Threads, you're going to see the same kind of pinkish yellow sunset colors that are iconic to Instagram, and within the first 7 hours of this platform going live, it received 10 million signups. Wow, that's a lot. You know, I was wondering when the Zuck would come in and take advantage of this whole social media upheaval, because he's pretty much the OG social media architect when you think about it. I mean, he's created Facebook, and yes, I know sites like MySpace and various BBS boards would really be the true OG social medias of the internet, but those didn't have nearly as many users, and most of them haven't lasted nearly as long as Facebook has. And if you look closely at the replies in this thread, famous content creators like MrBeast and Jacksepticeye have already responded with their Threads accounts. And I point this out because the most important thing for any social media site is going to be having people create content on that site that people want to consume. And this creates a kind of feedback loop where more content creators and more advertisers, more people that are posting news articles and the such are going to want to go to the platform that has the most content consumers so that they can make the most amount of money. But there's a lot of questions and concerns that people have with the new platform. One of the main issues being the content. Someone on the platform asked, what button do I press so that I can see the people that I follow? And right now, there isn't really any way for you to curate your feed that way. You're just going to have to see whatever the most popular stuff on the site is, whatever the Threads algorithm is pushing at the moment. So obviously, without being able to create your own curated feed for you to consume, this Threads site is going to be way less entertaining and way less appealing than its competitors. The Threads platform also doesn't have hashtags. It doesn't have the ability to switch between a personal account and a business account. It doesn't have the ability to edit your posts that are made on the platform, or even the ability to make posts to the platform from the web version of the app. Like if you just go to it in your browser, it's read-only. So yeah, these are all pretty fundamental things that you would expect any social media site to have, especially one that's created by an almost trillion-dollar tech company that has so many other social media apps under their wing. And one of the most annoying things that people have said about the Threads site is the fact that your Threads account is very deeply intertwined with your Instagram account. So much so that if you end up deleting your Threads account after deciding it's not for you, then your entire Instagram account will also get deleted. Now, the CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, has addressed these concerns from people on Threads, saying that these different features would be added to the site in time, but still, it's really silly that this site does not have these basic features. Like, why not just reuse and adapt some of the same code from Instagram that was used for hashtags in Threads? Like, I guess the Zuck cared more about launching the app unfinished so that he could bring in as many people as possible that were jumping the ship from Twitter. Now, all of this success that Threads is having seems like it has the people over at Twitter a little bit concerned, because the controversial decision to make it impossible for you to view people's tweets without being signed in to a Twitter account has at least been somewhat walked back. So you still need to be signed in order to view people's account timelines and see responses to somebody's tweets and see what's trending, and to use the Twitter search functionality. But at least for now, you can view a direct link to someone's tweet without having to be signed in. I mean, personally, this is pretty much good enough for me, since the only time I really even use Twitter is when someone texts me a direct link to a tweet that's funny. And in a way, this is actually a little bit better for me, because all of that distracting stuff, you know, like all the stuff that would show up under the trending timeline, just doesn't show up. You can't see that feed unless you're signed into Twitter. So yeah, it's a much nicer looking page. It's actually a lot more like Knitter in a way now. And I'm not sure if there's any rate limits on viewing Twitter this way, but if not, it might actually be possible to reassemble Twitter threads by just having links to each of those individual tweets on an alternative front end for Twitter for people to view in a more concise way without having a Twitter account. Of course, Elon has stated many times that the engagement on Twitter is higher now than it ever has been before, but there's also data from Google Trends showing that search queries like how to delete my Twitter account are up 60%. Oh, and speaking of Google, that wall that was put up around Twitter was so high that it apparently reduced the site's visibility on Google by about 62%. That means that when you search for something, the odds of you finding results that are on twitter.com are going to be a lot less likely, and ultimately that means less organic growth for twitter.com. It really seems like Twitter is destroying itself, and the Zuck is using this as an opportunity to undestroy his company after losing billions of dollars on that metaverse project. But much like the early metaverse, Threads currently has no legs. So what do you all think? Will the Zuck return to his throne as the social media lizard king, or do you think something else will happen? Personally, I would like to see more disenfranchised Twitter users flocking to Mastodon, which is the FOSS and federated alternative to Twitter, and is what I would recommend to people that are looking to get off of Twitter, because Mastodon is what's going to give you the most freedom. A lot of people have already been complaining about the censorship on Threads, so obviously it's not a free speech platform. But let's test the censorship boundaries of Threads. Go ahead and share this video on that platform, and let's see how far it gets. And let's see if it's useful for hacking the algorithm. And don't forget to also follow me on Odyssey. Have a great rest of your day.